Hi, I'm Randy Wooden, and welcome to another in our Edge Library series, talking now with baby boomers and dealing with that question of tell me about yourself. Actually, this is part 2 of that. In part 1, just briefly, we talked a little bit about some of the things that you need to be aware of with this question, typically talking, first of all, about professional, not personal, and the concern about how detailed to get, as well talking about the need to end it with a question to sort of establish your credibility or your ability to ask questions during the interview. At the end of the segment, I alluded to Geese. Let's talk about what Geese is now in this segment. Geese is an acronym that I put together. Actually, I used to teach a class on job hunting, and a lot of times I would walk through how to handle this tell me about yourself question, and some of the students would just, it was harder because I was talking about the different steps, but it didn't make sense. And you stop and think about it, you can remember the points on a compass if you think news, north, east, west, and south. I mean, we all know the 4 points, north, east, west, and south. But there are any number of, you can remember the lakes, the Great Lakes, Holmes, Homes, Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Superior. If you put things into an acronym, you can remember stuff from when you were a kid. You know your ABCs because you used to sing it. Now, if you had to say them backward, you'd be lost, right? So think of Geese as a way to structure an answer to get in and get out comfortably. The G is a greeting. Just want to thank them for having me in. Again, sound personable. This is a conversation. It's not a nerve-wracking, okay, push the play button and I'm going to answer this question. Don't do that. So, Mr. Employer, thank you for having me in. I appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk with you. The first E would be education. If it is relevant to the job at hand, then mention it. If you don't have the requisite education, then don't mention it. I don't go into detail about a whole lot. Let's face it, at our age as a baby boomer, the fact that you have a degree is about it. Just, I'm a graduate of, in my case, I'm a graduate of Marietta College. Now, if my major helps me in this case, then I would mention that, especially if your major was in something either of a technical nature or perhaps finance or something that pertains to the job at hand. But for many people, could have had a degree in basket weaving. Who cares? At this point, all they care about is that you have a degree. You know that as well as I do in many, many cases. The second E would be your experience. Now, here's where you get into that concern about age and am I too old and I don't want to talk about everything I've done. So what I would do is, let's say I got out of college in '82. So if you want to go back and do the math, you can determine how much experience I've had post-college. Also, I worked in college. I worked in high school. So you start running those numbers and you run out of hands and fingers and toes and everything. So that's not a good thing. What I would do is I would just use round numbers. I would say things such as I have a little over 25 years of professional experience, including, and then that including part is the subgroup of the overall experience. The subgroup is the part that's relevant to the job I'm interviewing for. You might say I have over 20 years experience, including half that or including over 5 years in blank. If all of your career has been spent, let's use manufacturing for example, then I would say I have over 20 years in manufacturing or have over 20 years of manufacturing experience. So that's the second E. Now the S is skills, and I would say instead of using the skills and the S, I would pull that out for a moment of the acronym and instead insert yet another acronym. I know, but bear with me. It's ASK, A-S-K. They've asked a question, work the ask into this segment of your answer. The A would stand for accomplishments or achievements. The S would stand for skills, and the K for knowledge. So you've given the greeting, you've mentioned briefly your education, briefly your experience without detail. Don't go company to company where you work. Now instead of saying I have skills in or I have whatever, don't go that direction. Say, and through my career I've developed skills, I've gained knowledge, and I've had accomplishments that I'm proud of and would hope to get a chance to share with you. And then I move into the final component of the answer, which is the final E, and that is an employer question. Now, I'd repeat my greeting and I'd say, well, as I said, I was looking forward to coming in, and I wonder if you could tell me more about what you're looking for. The reason I repeat my greeting, if you think about it, I've gone from telling of education, telling of experience, telling of the fact that I have all these skills or whatever. At this point now, I'm going from telling to asking a question, and just like driving a vehicle, you don't just throw it from drive into reverse. put it in neutral a little bit, hopefully. And same thing you're doing here. You're putting a verbal bridge in here and then going to ask that question. And note the question I ask, and that's kind of important. It's, could you tell me a little more of what you're looking for? Notice I didn't say, could you tell me more about the position? I already know what the job is. I read the job description. What I'm hopeful they'll do is give me some tip, some clue as to the character or the characteristics of the person they're looking for. The sooner I can learn that, the earlier on that I can go about trying to sell to those needs. Also, by asking a question, it forces me to be quiet, which is important, and it forces them to talk. And realistically, they're going to talk about things that they were going to talk about anyway, which is the job, the company, that sort of thing. So that's how to handle the Geese part of this entire answer. It's kind of complicated. Maybe I made more of it than I should, but you know what? I think if you start the interview well and you end it effectively, the middle can be so-so, but I think if you start strong and end strong, you stand a great chance of getting the job. Geese, for me and for the people that I've coached over the years, has been an effective structure to be able to handle that difficult question of tell me about yourself. And that's going to wrap it up for this segment in our Edge Library series. Again, talking with baby boomers and the tell me about yourself question. It's going to wrap it up. I'm Randy Wooden. Thanks for watching.